Roger, what does this verdict tell you?
Well, it tells me that the jurors could not conclude that he lied under oath, that they did not believe any of the witnesses that the government put up to convince them that Bonds lied under oath to a point where they could unanimously agree. So what did they end up with? They ended up with convicting him for obstruction of justice and not for lying under oath, because they couldn't agree to that, for you giving evasive and misleading testimony, which I think, frankly, his lawyers will be back in front of court, in front of that judge in May, arguing that this conviction should never hold up. Believe me, many of the questions that were asked Barry Bonds in that grand jury were not artfully asked. And to say that he's guilty of obstructing justice, not by lying, but by giving evasive and misleading answers, I think they're going to ask the judge to take a relook at that.
If it holds, what punishment would you expect?
I frankly don't think that Bonds will go to prison. Of course, I'm reading tea leaves and I'm predicting, but when you think about the fact that he's not convicted of lying under oath, he's convicted of giving misleading answers under oath, not lying under oath. He's never been in trouble before in his life. He has no prior convictions, and this is a felony conviction. It's not a violent crime. I would think that this is the kind of penalty where he should get a great deal of community service. That kind of thing could be a real help in the city of San Francisco, helping kids. Maybe a fine to go along with it, but to me that would be an appropriate sentence.
Earlier on SportsCenter, our Mark Wada said that the jurors were 11-1 towards guilty on count 2. That was making false statements regarding injection. You've been on the prosecution side. What would you do with that information in terms of moving ahead?
If I was the prosecution in this case, and you're right, I've been on the defense and the prosecution, and I've had them come back both ways, 11-1 for me and 11-1 against me. But when you have a conviction, they have a conviction, and whether or not they've convicted him on the steroid charges, or whether or not or the lying charges, or whether or not they convicted him on the obstruction of justice charges, they've got a felony conviction. They've accomplished what they set out to do. It sort of ends with a whimper instead of a cry. There's no conviction for lying, a conviction for being evasive.
Quickly, Roger.
It's not very satisfying if you're the government.
Do you expect